and to cast a critical look upon our achievements and challenges while identifying the strategies that we have to employ to secure sustained development and define our destiny. This is a special occasion for us Barbadians, as we see the season of emancipation nearing climax. During this time, we reflected on and commemorated the struggles of our ancestors that culminated in the end of slavery on this island. So Dame Gracia's presence here therefore holds much significance, knowing her background, her involvement in the struggle against racial injustice over many decades, and her association with the cause and the rights for women and children. Each one of us has agency. Everyone can act. Everyone, if inspired, has the ability to be a change agent. And this evening, we are in the company of an outstanding change agent, an advocate, an ambassador, an activist, Her Excellency Dame Graça Machel. She is an African stateswoman, educator, and humanitarian who has dedicated her life to advancing the rights of women and improving the lives of children. The tapestry of her lifelong achievements demonstrates her commitment to improving the political, social, and economic landscape of Africa, particularly Southern Africa. And this evening, we have the honor of sitting at this elder's feet to learn from her life. Through the graceful guidance of our interviewer, Ms. Carol Roberts, Dame Graça will take us behind the scenes of her life as a freedom fighter and a government minister. And for those of us gathered here tonight, it is a privilege to go behind the curtain and to see and to know what true agency looks like. Not when the cameras are rolling and great speeches are being delivered, but to know what it's like to be in the trenches. When things look shaky and the tasks you have assigned yourself seem insurmountable, and your supporters become fewer and fewer, while the battle still rages on, and you remain steadfast and committed to the task at hand. Even when no one follows, you still pursue, you still persevere with the expectation that things will change, that things will get better, and transformations will occur. And then the light that appears at the end of the tunnel, even just a glimmer of hope, that is enough to inspire you to lay aside what is behind and press towards the mark for social justice, equality, and economic sovereignty. So we will sit and wait in great anticipation of the exchange of ideas, particularly considered alongside today's concept of emancipation by the descendants of Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to Reflections on the Road to Freedom. I thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Green. I now invite Senator Dr. the Honorable Chantal Munro-Knight, Minister in the Prime Minister's Office, to deliver this evening's opening remarks.
Good evening. I want to thank all of those who have gone before me and established the protocol, even as I recognize our Honorable Prime Minister, Dame Graça, who I am definitely, absolutely a fangirl of. I met her very briefly before we started, and I haven't been able to stop smiling at just how gracious and humble, but completely embracing she is. And it suggests to me already that we are in for a wonderful conversation and journey this evening. As you've heard, this evening's discussion and our commemoration of this day on August 23rd falls within our season of emancipation. Our theme for the season of emancipation for the last 3 years has been reimagining the past, celebrating the future. That suggests 3 things for us. One is reflection. It provides for a moment for all of us as a country to reflect on our journey, to reflect on our own story of development, but to do so in a way that doesn't only speak to a history of suffering and oppression, but allows us to also reframe that narrative about our development in a lens as well of resilience, of a people who have been able to overcome. As a nation that passed in 1661 the slave code that ushered in, yes, brutal history of chattel slavery, but also a nation that is forging its own way and leading today in the world. So that within the season of emancipation and the journey that we have asked this entire nation, all of us, to be on, we reflect on that history. We reflect on who we are in our own ways and in our own voices. But the season of emancipation also asked us to contend, because we recognize that even as those struggles for freedom, liberty, emancipation, and independence are behind us, that we face today new challenges that we must contend with. Whether those challenges come in the face of the climate crisis, whether it is the fight for sustainable development, whether it is in the fight for our own still coming economic liberation, because we must recognize that as a small nation, we still face the challenge of being able to forge our way in a global world that can still sometimes be antagonistic to small states and small islands that look like us, with people, with history like us. So we must contend. But also as well, we must celebrate. The season of emancipation is very much about celebration. It is about acknowledging our achievements, our victories, our triumphs, and those things that have shaped us, and those things that have allowed us today to lead. It recognizes that we are a people who are strong, of pride, and we are a people who innovate. We are a people who are embracing. It is this same Barbados that will give to the world the Reclaiming Our Atlantic Destiny project, in which we will give our story and the story of others to the world in a way that seeks to bring those archives that we hold that tell the story of where we come from, again in a frame that tells the truth about our development. A truth that we not hold for ourselves, but that again we give to the world as we commemorate, again, our history in a modern and different way. But it also as well recognizes that we do not do so alone, that our history and our future that we are forging is done so within the context of our relationships with others and the relationships that we have forged with the continent, our relationships that we have forged with other partners that are on the same journey as we are. And tonight, as we engage with this conversation with Dame Graça, I hope that we can, within that conversation, come to an understanding of all of those things, the reflection, the need to contend, and as well, the need to celebrate. Again, I am deeply honored to have had the privilege to welcome you on the behalf of the Prime Minister's Office Culture. And I say to all of you, let us reflect, let us forge the way forward, let us celebrate. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. And at this time, I'd like to acknowledge Dr. Kevin Greenidge, Governor of the Central Bank of Barbados. And sir, we thank you for having us here in your home this evening. It was through the advocacy of the member states and officials of the United Nations in 2007 that August 23rd was recognized as the International Day for the Remembrance of the Slave Trade and its Abolition. The day was first celebrated in 2008 under the theme, Breaking the Silence, Lest we Forget. Lest we forget, slavery and the slave trade are among the worst violations of human rights in the history of humanity. On that note, I welcome to the podium Mrs. Tony Brother, the resident coordinator ad interim, and to deliver the remarks on behalf of the United Nations Office.
Thank you very much. And I feel I have to say the salutations, so bear with me. The Honorable Mia Moore-Motley, Prime Minister of Barbados, of course, the members of Cabinet, Dr. the Most Honorable Anthony Carter, the Cultural Ambassador, Her Excellency, Dame Graça Machel, and my colleagues in the Diplomatic Corps, members of Parliament, and of course our host, Dr. Kevin Greenidge. Thank you, all of you, for being with us this evening to reflect. So the United Nations, I'm bringing remarks on behalf of all of my colleagues at the United Nations on this day in remembrance of the slave trade and its abolition. The transatlantic slave trade was one of the darkest chapters in human history, a period marked by unspeakable suffering, exploitation, and the dehumanization of millions of enslaved Africans and their descendants. However, even in this period, the light of humanity continued to shine in the Caribbean as well. The fact that our systems are now ours to create reform, whether it was Bussa, Nanny of the Maroons, or Toussaint Louverture, the road to freedom was paved by those who survived, those who thrived, those who knew that with their efforts, their descendants would know more, do more, and have the opportunity for better, for equality, and to paraphrase another striver, they knew that they would overcome because the arc of moral history may be long, but it bends towards justice. And what is freedom without justice, without peace? The preamble to the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, whereas recognition of the inherent dignity and the equal and unalienable rights of all members of the human family is the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. Now, this beautiful archipelago of the Caribbean was at the center of the transatlantic slave trade. Some 40% of enslaved Africans were shipped to the Caribbean islands. But perhaps our feet take flight, especially in the Olympics and beyond, because in our DNA, we're aware of what our ancestors ran from and what we're running towards. Perhaps this drive also inspired the actions of those born in and influenced by these small islands. Shirley Chisholm, Marcus Garvey, Kwame Ture, Alexander Hamilton, Sarah Ann Gill, Dame Nita Barrow, as many of the known and unknown Caribbean-born and influenced freedom seekers. Now, the transatlantic slave trade was ostensibly about free and unvalued labor. This labor was policed by violence. I'm excited tonight to hear from Dame Graça Machel about the invisible and visible labor that we see on the road to freedom. As Audre Lorde told us, the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. What kind of freedom is built on the invisible labor of one group? When else is biology used to inform freedom to access opportunities, to education, employment, and healthcare? Some of you may know me, and my other hat is the representative of UN Women for the Caribbean. So the struggle for gender equality is deeply entwined with the fight against the legacies of slavery. It is a direct continuation of the fight for freedom, which has defined the Caribbean's history. Women have not only worked closely with men to contribute significantly to building the road to freedom in the Caribbean and across the world through challenging patriarchal structures that have sought to limit their rights and opportunities while tirelessly fighting for equality, justice, and dignity. We're still on the road to freedom. The root causes of the transatlantic slave trade and colonialism remain. Many are not yet enjoying the right to life without fear of violence, even violence in the home. We have an opportunity. We have an opportunity to learn from all who came before us and to see and shine light on the visible and invisible work being done. So while the colonial legacies and systems of racism and discrimination are the lived reality still of many Afro-descendants and all people, especially marginalized persons, we have created a reality marked by joy at times, success, and through it all, resilience. Our ancestors survived so we could thrive. Now, associated with the sun, a phoenix obtains new life by rising from the ashes of its predecessor. Haven't we all? The United Nations was born from the understanding that peace is every human being's right. Our countries standing together for peace is the answer. Peace is the raison d'etre of the United Nations, and we know at this stage it is the one thing missing from many places in the world. Not only in countries and communities, but in homes. But it is the way out of crises. It is our rally cry. It is the path to freedom. I was lucky enough not only to have worked in South Africa, but I was also raised by a South African man. My bonus father was born in apartheid, and he was born to benefit from apartheid as an Afrikaans man. He taught me that no matter what you've been taught, no matter how you benefit from unequal systems, you must be willing to risk everything for equality, because it is the answer and it is the key to the freedom that we aspire. Because when we come to it, as Maya Angelou said, we, this people on this wayward floating body, created on this earth of this earth, have the power to fashion for this earth a climate where every man and every woman can live free from, without sanctimonious piety, without crippling fear. When we come to it, we must confess that we are the possible. We are the miraculous. We are the true wonder of this world. And that is when, and only when, we come to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Broder. It is now my pleasure to invite to the stage Barbados's Cultural Ambassador, Dr. the Most Honorable Anthony Gabby Carter, for this evening's cultural presentation.
Good evening, everyone. I don't know how many people heard this song, but I'm gonna try to play it. South African child lying on the ground, bleeding in Soweto. His very last words escaping his tongue, bleeding in Soweto. He looked up with a smile, this heroic South African child, And before they blast him away, South African police hear him say, kill me if you got to kill me. Kill me if you want to kill me. I say my country must be free. Kill me if you got to kill me. Kill me if you want to kill me. I say my country must be free. One man, one vote. One man, one vote. No more police dog to jump and bite my throat. One man, one vote. One man, one vote. No more police dog to jump and bite my throat. Yes, South African child lying on the ground, bleeding in Soweto. His very last words escaping his tongue, bleeding in Soweto. He looked up with a smile, this heroic South African child, and before they blast him away, them South African police hear him say, kill me if you got to kill me. Kill me if you want to kill me. I say my country must be free. Kill me if you got to kill me. Kill me. You want to kill me? I say my country must be free. One man, one vote. One man, one vote. No more police dog to jump and bite my throat. One man, one vote. One man, one vote. No more police dog to jump and bite my throat. In the Bantustan, one man, one vote. In Pretoria, I say one man, one vote. In Johannesburg, one man, one vote. All over South Africa, one man, one vote. 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 No more police dog to jump and bite my throat. One man, one vote. One man, one vote. No more police dog to jump and bite my throat. Thank you. I want you to help me sing this song. This is another one I wrote. When I sing, you sing after me. Mandela, 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 a freedom fighter in South Africa, a freedom fighter in South Africa. Yeah, Mandela, Mandela, a freedom fighter for the world. Sing it again with me. A freedom fighter for the world. One more time. A freedom fighter. One more time you're singing. A freedom. "27 years he spent in prison, in the dungeon on Robben Island, sleeping on cement in the prison, till they grant him his freedom. Mandela, Mandela, a freedom fighter for South Africa. Mandela, Mandela, a freedom fighter for the world. A freedom fighter. Sing it one more time by yourself. A freedom fighter. It was unfair incarceration, 'cause Mandela did nothing wrong. So let us praise this man forever. Lift our voices, sing this song. Mandela, Mandela, a freedom fighter for South Africa. Mandela, Mandela, a freedom fighter for the world. His wife is here with us tonight. That make me feel so right. I know that this is true. You will enjoy the interview. Where we say Mandela, Mandela, a freedom fighter for South Africa. Mandela, Mandela, a freedom fighter for the world. It was unfair incarceration, but Mandela did nothing wrong. So let us praise this man forever. Lift our voices, sing this song. Mandela, Mandela, a freedom fighter for South Africa. Mandela, Mandela, a freedom fighter for the world. What you say? A freedom fighter for the world. Oh yes, he was a freedom fighter for the world. A freedom fighter for the world.
What a powerful performance. Thank you, Ambassador Carter. Let's give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. We will now continue this evening's program by inviting tonight's interviewer, Mrs. Carol Roberts, Chief Executive Officer of the National Cultural Foundation, to the stage to start the conversation with our esteemed guests. Thank you, Mrs. Roberts. Our principal guest, Graça Machel, is an African stateswoman whose decades-long professional and public life is rooted in Mozambique's struggle for self-rule and international advocacy for women and children's rights. As a former freedom fighter and Mozambique's first Minister of Education, she's been pivotal in shaping policies and initiatives for social transformation. Mrs. Machel's groundbreaking UNICEF report on the impact of armed conflict on children revolutionized global responses to conflict zones. She co-founded organizations like the Elders and Girls, Not Brides, and holds governance roles in various development bodies. Through her NGOs, including the Graça Machel Trust, she champions women's empowerment, education, and good governance. Her relentless humanitarian work has earned her prestigious awards, including the UN's Nansen Refugee Award and the WHO Gold Medal. Recognized globally, Machel's dedication to improving lives reflects in her numerous accolades and honorary degrees. She continues to inspire hope and strive for a fair world. I now invite Her Excellency Dame Graça Machel to the stage.
Is a bit slippery.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Mrs. Roberts, I now pass this evening's session over to you and invite you to make your opening remarks.
Thank you. Honorable Prime Minister, members of Cabinet, members of Parliament, members of the Senate, members of the Diplomatic Corps, senior government officials, specially invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to you to the Frank Collymore Hall for this chat with the most illustrious, Her Excellency Dame Graça Machel. Good evening. Thank you. Given that fantastic welcome, I'm going to change my first question, and I am instead going to ask you to comment on a comment you made to me yesterday when we had our preliminary chat, when you said that arriving in Barbados, you brought your ancestors with you to meet their ancestors here. I want to start there.
Good evening. Yes, this has been a very special arrival to this country. I felt there was a connection of centuries and centuries of our history, our common history. Touching this soil, I felt welcomed, in fact, by those who have come to this part of the world as slaves, but those who fought and they achieved freedom for this country, which is now welcoming me with so much love and with so compassion. But I also felt that my coming was not me alone. I bring with me, yes, the spirits of those freedom fighters. Agustin Neto, Amilcar Cabral, Samara Machel, yes, Madiba, Sam Nyoma, the ones like Albertina Sisulu. And I felt really that we have come to pay tribute to those who became slaves, but they fought for freedom and their freedom. There's free Barbados today. But I felt also that we are telling them, yes, this is a country which belongs to you now, but back home, we are also free. So it is not a personal coming. It is that historical connection. And I have to thank very sincerely Prime Minister Mia, whom I consider my daughter, for having brought me here. And in a very, very special moment, which is this season of emancipation. So thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, Mia, and I'll be always very grateful to you for having brought me to connect with ourselves.
Thank you. Great. In a previous interview, you said, I did not choose my causes chose me. So let's start with that.
Yes, I hope we'll have an opportunity to talk about the road to freedom, but
Yes.
about the causes. Some people sit down and decide, well, what am I going to do? And then they make a choice that, well, what I feel strongly about, it is whatever. I didn't have that luxury. I was still very young, and I hadn't even had the time to develop myself professionally when I was asked to become the first Minister of Education of Free Mozambique. I had no clue what to do. But I had to gather strength and say, we were one of those countries which had so high rates of illiteracy to the point where, well, we say in the world of the blind, the one with one eye is a queen or a king. So I was that queen because I had gone to school and I had had the privilege to attend university, although I didn't finish my degree. So I had really to learn what it means to design a system of education which would be talking to our history, talking to our cultural diversity, but which would lead us, to overcome one of the huge obstacles for development, which is illiteracy. 93% of Mozambicans were illiterate at the time we became independent. So you can imagine it was a monumental task. So I didn't choose to become Minister of Education. I'm not going to describe what it meant, but it didn't take long for me to understand that girls were not performing well within the system. I would look at and analyze the statistics and the results. It was a glaring reality that there was something wrong here. So I had to ask researchers to tell me, what is it? What's happening? Why? So I learned about disadvantage, discrimination, all the social cultural norms which were keeping girls out of the system of education. And of course, I had to lead my team to find ways of dealing with it. That was not a choice, it was a responsibility. Then after a few years, we had made a huge progress in terms of developing a network in the country, and everyone was participating. We were very lucky because those days there was so much enthusiasm everywhere. So parents, local leaders, you name it, everyone was involved in education. But then the conflict comes, and I have to go and visit children in displaced camps. I realized that those, cheerful and joyful children I knew, now they had been transformed. They were gazing at me as they were lost. They couldn't understand what was going on, but definitely they were hugely traumatized. I had to say, what do we do? And that's when we asked those who had much more knowledge than us to help us to deal with trauma, particularly a trauma which is provoked by the impact of conflict. This is what they say. We produced a report which was a groundbreaking. You can say whatever. It was our responsibility. We had no choice. We had to find an alternative for these children to become children again. And it's not a choice. So I came involved with education, with girls, children impacted by conflict, women, because I had to understand the families where the children are coming from. And even part of the system was to deal with the formal education, but the informal education was part of it. So I didn't choose, but I was charged to find solutions. But at the same time, I have to confess now, I fell in love with education. And until today, there's no way I will think without that. But children, and especially girls, women, became a sort of my raison d'être, if I can say it. I can't just stop. I have to continue because, unfortunately, the challenges are still huge with these segments of our population. Yeah.
So then I want to take you further back because you mentioned a free Mozambique. So I want to take you back to the time before Mozambique had achieved its freedom and the role you played in that, if any.
You know, what usually people say Africa is not understood as diverse as it is. Most of the continent was able to achieve freedom through political negotiations. And British colonizers, French colonizers, even, you name it, I mean, Dutch in certain areas, they understood the winds of change and they gave what we would call political freedom to their colonies. But in Southern Africa, we had the illegal and racist regime in Rhodesia. You had apartheid, which was institutionalized, a racist regime in South Africa and Namibia. You had Angola and Mozambique, who were colonized by Portugal, but they didn't declare, but the practices of racial discrimination was exactly the same as Rhodesia and South Africa. And this was the last bastion of racism, institutionalized racism, and colonization and apartheid. And they didn't want to move. So we were left again with no choice. We had to pick up arms. We knew that only a radical pressure on those regimes would allow us to be free. So we engaged with armed conflict. It's not because we love war, but this is the price we had to pay for us to compel bringing them down. It's not like they had to accept, but we brought those regimes down for us to be free.
Do you want to expand a bit more on armed conflict? And the reason why I'm going to ask you this is for most of the countries in the Caribbean, in particular the English-speaking Caribbean, the notion of armed conflict in the fight for freedom seems almost movie-like. What did it mean for you and the people of Mozambique and the other nations in Southern Africa?
You see, what it meant for us, I would say it was the last resort of the means we could express our, let me use the word of rebellion, and breaking with racial systems, and to affirm our freedom. In essence, it means the moment you pick up arms, you start fighting, you have freed yourself as individual. We freed ourselves to claim the right to force them to say, look, we are Mozambicans, we are South Africans, we are Zimbabweans, we are Angolans, and we don't recognize you, and because we don't recognize you, we are going to take you to the limit in which, of course, we had to shed some blood for freedom. So what is the meaning of this, and what is meant to us is that we had to pay the highest price for us, not to be free, but to be recognized by them that we are free.
Understood.
That was the thing, for them to recognize that we are free. But in this part of the world, I think the process is equal to many of African countries, as I mentioned. We are 55 countries, by the way. So the ones which had to take the armed struggle were about 5 of them. But in essence, there is a similar, I wouldn't even call it similar. It is exactly the same process, which here didn't require that high price of armed struggle, but what you fought for here, it's exactly the same thing we were fighting for, but we had to use different means because of the circumstances.
So, similar causes, different paths.
Yeah.
What role did you play as a freedom fighter?
Well, I started when I was at the university. I belonged to a small clandestine cell. So I became a member of Frelimo while I was still a student. Until in my clandestine, cell, we made a mistake. We made a mistake because we were sending information to our leadership in Dar es Salaam and then but we held a meeting in a space which were not safe enough. So we exposed ourselves. And we realized that, well, we needed to leave Lisbon before, we were 4 of us. Before, we are jailed. But to cut the story is, the first thing you do when you go to the camps, you have to be trained. All of us, we had to be trained because, one, you have to be able to participate in the fighting itself, but you have to be able to protect yourself and to protect those who are around you. So you needed to go through the military training and the discipline and all the requirement of how you become a guerrilla. And this is what I did like anyone else. But I came almost at the end of the armed struggle because, as I said, I was in clandestine and I had been asked to remain where I was doing until we made this mistake. So my role was, when I joined, after the training, I went to what we call liberated areas. And it was, in fact, Frelimo was already, governing part of the territory where the Portuguese had been pushed out. So, one, you have to protect schools because we had schools. You have to protect our health units. You have to protect villages in small groups of people so that they can continue their life, but also to produce food for themselves, but also for the guerrilla. So protection is number one. You sleep with your gun because you never know at what time you will be asked to wake up because there is a crisis, you know. But I also participated in the beginning of reshaping our system of education. What I mean is, in liberated areas, we made sure that little ones do go to school. And of course, the curricula had to be designed by us. It's not the Portuguese one. So when I arrived, there were some programs which were being utilized, but I had to participate to improve this. And perhaps that's the reason when we became free completely, then I was asked to be in the education system.
Few or little creature comforts. Sleeping, as you said, with your firearm because you never know when you would have to get up and respond. The lure and the temptation to walk away, to quote unquote save yourself. How do you not fall into that train of thought? How do you keep fighting every single day? Where is that personal fortitude coming from?
No, you know, the training is extremely important to strengthen, I mean, your ability to navigate in different situations. But the resolve, I think the most important thing is the resolve not to sit with injustice and doing nothing against it. You see what I mean?
Yes.
And that's why we were ready to say, if our lives are to be let down, we were prepared to die for freedom. But the important thing is not that we were trained. No, the important thing I would like you to retain is we had made the decision that we are not going to continue to live in our countries on our knees. We had to stand up and we had to rise to say we have a right to the land of our ancestors and that this land belongs to us and we are going to take it no matter what it costs. So it's the resolve which is more important for me. And I think the training strengthened the resolve as well. And it never leaves you because then you have been, I mean, shaped in a way you are sensitive to injustice. And whenever there is injustice, your instinct, that's why the instinct that you have to do something remains with you for the rest of your life. It remains with you for the rest of your life.
And therefore, I would posit that our season of emancipation, our celebration of emancipation, and your celebration, Southern Africa's celebration of freedom and that version of emancipation, as you said, are quite similar, although the journeys may be different.
Absolutely. I wouldn't even call it similar, because if you say similar, it's like they're too different, they're just similar. I would say are the same. It's like there's no separation between the two. There's no separation between the path we had to take and the path which you have here. And you just say, now what is the difference in terms of challenges of today to continue to affirm ourselves as Black nations, in this case, as Black nations? What is the difference between Barbados and Mozambique or South Africa? Absolutely the same. Absolutely the same. So the issue, perhaps we'll come to talk about this much later, is yes, now we are here, and the world has evolved to the level where it is. How do we continue to be the same, with the same resolve? But we know that having achieved the political freedom, the freedoms which we still have to conquer are much many, are much complex, but the journey for freedom is still very long for us. And you know at a certain point what strategies you are going to adopt for this kind of fight, for this freedom and that freedom, which builds the big freedom of being yourself. And I did use the word that we wanted them to recognize us, that we are free. And I think all of us, as Black people, wherever we are, we still have to make the others recognize us, accept us, respect us, and even to know and to come to terms that despite the fact that we had the stigma of slavery and the stigma of colonization, our humanity remains untouched. And we are absolutely equal. Absolutely, there is no one single thing which makes us different from the others. But it's them who have the difficulty to recognize that. And because they don't recognize, they still not recognize that we are equal, that's why this struggle, it's exactly as fierce as before. For us to make them recognize, respect, accept that we are equal. And in fact, this thing which is called the human dignity, it doesn't have to do with anything, the fact that my skin is darker. It doesn't have to do with any other of the things which we keep being told, and sometimes some of us internalized. Yeah, some of us internalize that. So the struggle for me is, it has to start with that self-awareness. Self-awareness.
Right. And thus, you've led me into my next question perfectly, because I was going to ask you about the comment, to comment on the comment, that sometimes in order to be recognized by others, we first have to recognize ourselves.
Yes. Yes. It's exactly that. You find that many of us, we don't know exactly what is our self-worth. We are not very clear that we have in us that inherent, light called life, and it is something which doesn't distinguish us from any other people. We don't have that. So I think our major problem as Black people across the globe, it's exactly to have this self-awareness and to recognize our self-worth, and also to identify clearly what do we have to offer to the other members of the human family, which is unique, still unique, only us can provide to the global family. I think many times we undermine the fact that perhaps because we have suffered so much, we have developed resilience in an extraordinary way. we still keep a deep sense of value of human life and of the sense of humanity which exists in each human being. In Africa, we call it Ubuntu,
Yes.
which means I am because you are.
Yes.
And because we still keep this in the way we live, in the way we relate to one another, I think perhaps this is the best gift which we have to offer to those who have lost it. Because there are millions and billions of a part of a human family who have lost that sense of humanity. And I am because you are. You know, in some of our languages, the ones I know, African languages, you never ask somebody, when you say good morning, you never say in singular to say, how are you? When you say, how are you, in English, you can't say it differently, but in our language, you always ask in the plural. I'm speaking to Carol, but I'm not going to say, how are you, Carol? And I say, how are you with the family in the community you represent? You are never alone. Wherever you are, you carry with you the collective of this way of being. And when you reply, when you also reply, you reply to say, we are well, we are doing well. And if there is a challenge in the family, we'll say we, but you never speak in singular. This is our philosophical way of being in life, in that collective. So I think in schools which our children go, they are infused with this thing of you, the I first. They learn to say I instead of we.
Yes.
Okay? And instead of working together in solidarity, now I'm bringing another, in solidarity, they are taught to compete. So instead of working together, they fight to compete that I am better than the other one. And they lost it completely. They lost it completely. So I think African people should be very proud of still keeping in us that sense of solidarity.
And family.
And it's more than family. It's that you are not I, you are we, I am we are all we, and we are so interdependent, there is no I without you, okay? And that is the philosophy which is behind the African culture, which I believe we should find a way of sharing it with others, because we are in this situation where the world is, precisely because we lost the human sense of being we, the sense of solidarity, that you can't go alone. We lost that.
In Barbados and the West Indies, education has been a powerful tool for transformation. Individuals, households, communities, and the nation. Has it been the same in Africa?
Yeah. I think, you know, I have to be, perhaps to say, you know, particularly in rural areas and in what we call townships, oh yes, it's continued to be the same. You know, even the way we sit to discuss issues, we don't sit like this. I mean, we sit this because we are two, okay? But if we are more than two, we sit in circle. You see? We sit in circle. And families, until today, they eat in circles to share. And some people will think that this is because we are backward. They just don't understand. They don't understand. There's the circle keeps the energy, you see, the energy of sharing, moving exactly like this, and it never gets out as this corner. You see what I'm trying to say? So that's something I believe our academics should study these things and should document. And I'm saying this because I have the feeling and that the next perhaps 100 years, those who are going to contribute to bring back the humanity, the being human of us are African people. And you cannot give it to others if you don't document it properly. Yes. And you need to prove how excellent it is if we are to regain, all of us, this sense of humanity and embracing one another. I think Mia has done a great job on that. When she came out, she explained in those halls of power the issue of a climate crisis and how climate crisis should be tackled together. She didn't point out only to say, oh, those who have done it and those of us who have suffered. It is true, she mentioned that. But she came with solutions which were good for those who are that side and those of us who are this side. All of us as a human family, we have to face the climate crisis together and as a win-win for all of us. And this is African. So this child of mine, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. But what I'm trying to say is her instinct as an African, I mean, she is of African descent, as all of you. But basically, I say you are Africans, okay? Although you are here in this part of the world. This is what it came deep from herself to feel there is no way out of this crisis if we don't embrace each one of us, and we face it together. And of course, what you have to put in the bowl of food, it can be different, but we have then to sit in circle and eat together. This is African.
So I want to tap back then just a bit to go back to the power of educating girls. Yes, let's talk about that.
The power of educating girls. You see, there's a way in which girls, when they are ignited, I mean the power they have inside, because if we don't give them the power, they have the power. We just have to ignite it so that they also become aware of the power they have. Once they become aware of the power they have inside, girls will not only they will flourish, but they will change the relationship with their parents, with the leaders who believe that they have the right to give a girl to a man who is, I don't know how much older than she is. Once she has that awareness, she stands up and she changed her life. She changed the life of her family, but she changed the life of those who are around her. So you want social transformation? And I'm not saying change, right? I'm saying transformation. You want to have social transformation? Educate girls. The situation will change.
You say,
and I could also give you another example, I mean, which is very close to us. You saw it during COVID. The countries which were successful in handling, I mean, the COVID crisis were led by women. it comes, that's why it's so important when many of us who are in this advocacy, when we tell the people who are in those boardrooms, those who are in these halls of power like you, when we tell them that bring women to the center of the decision making, you are going to have wonders as a result. Many of them don't understand. Many of them, they don't understand. But those who understand, they see the results. They see the results. So we still have very high levels of poverty. Educate girls. These girls, we will know what size of a family they want. They will know how to care about the health of their families. They will, of course, not allow any one of their children without quality education. So if you just focus on this, then you will add, as they grow and they become a huge movement, you will add what you want to tackle, but they will drive. In my organization, we say we have to have women at the center stage and at the driving seat. So it's not only to be at the center stage, but they have to be driving. Because when they drive, the example is when they drive, even COVID, which most of countries failed, only those who were led by women, they were successful to tackle it in a balanced way.
Right. Now, you realize that the ladies in the audience are applauding.
Yeah.
The gentlemen are silent.
Oh, you know.
What do you say to them?
Well, I couldn't because, you know, with my, despite my 4 eyes, I can't see well. But yes, I realized that there wasn't much of enthusiasm, and you are asking why. I'll tell you what I think. One of the huge freedoms which we have to win is to make men understand that they will be better human beings if they respect women and they treat them as equal. They will be better. And then it will, and we will end up, all of us, being better societies. That's the point. But they need to understand this. And perhaps we have not been able to articulate clearly for them to understand. It's in their interests. It's not in the interests of women alone. Of course, we are interested that they should change. But, you know, these grains of a patriarchy, which have been instilled in them, they are not going to go away without, again, let me say, a struggle for freedom. To free them.
Yes.
And to free us all, at the end, that's the point, is that it to free us all, because we become societies of equal, and of course, we care much better for one another.
Yes.
And we will be able to unleash the power of each one of us. In a way, it's going to make us much more effective in whatever we do. But perhaps now I have to appeal to those who are in this room. We need to find a better way of communicating this message. The message has to be communicated better. And I take part of the responsibility because I'm working on these issues on a daily basis. But it is really, if you ask me, what are one of the things which we still have to fight for, is to fight for us to be equal and to be better human beings and to have better societies. And it goes through also, not only, but also with free men from patriarchy.
You mentioned change, and then you mentioned transformation, and you said change is not transformation.
Yes. No, I said I'm talking. I said I'm talking of transformation because
Not
for me,
change.
the quality of the result we want to achieve, it's not change. You see, I can pick up this bottle and change it here and put it there. This is change.
Yes.
Yeah. But what I'm talking about when I say transformation, it means we are not ignoring the realities and even the kind of social norms which exist now. It's not we say it's zero, we start from zero. We deal with this, but we transform to a better stage. So transformation recognizes, for instance, it does recognize some cultural ways which, yes, we are equal, but culturally, we are distinct, right? And you can't ignore that. So we have to work together for something better, but we recognize that identities and the cultural way you achieve the collective freedom, you will take your way, I'll take my way, but we will meet in a better place. So that's the transformation I'm talking about.
Good.
Yeah.
And I think it was important for you yourself to make that distinction. Can Africa and the countries of the African diaspora achieve this social, economic, and political equality that we fought for centuries? And is this time the right time?
I wouldn't say it can, I would say it must.
Okay.
It must. You see, let me put it this way. Political freedom allows you to identify how you are going to build your economic freedom. And all of us, even those who are much better, I can say even you, Barbados in many aspects is a developed country, okay? But I wouldn't say that we have achieved it all. No. I think you are a kind of example of what many of us have to come to. But then you have the responsibility of recognizing that social transformation and the strengthening of different freedoms, including, the freedom to be equal, to be recognized as equal. You have to be in a better position than many of us who are still struggling with illiteracy, for instance, you see? And it's important because we need to have references. We need to have examples. So if you have reached this level, you will have to take the next stage of conquering freedoms, which will bring many of us then to say, I can achieve it also, and perhaps in much less time than the one you have to go through. Okay. So there's no space where you will say, oh, we are completely free and we don't have any other social issues to deal with. You will have to. But if we come, for instance, for where we are the so-called, third world or developing countries, they call it developing countries. Why are we fighting? Why are we still fighting? We have the resources, most of us will have the resources which the world needs, natural resources. We have them, okay? But, no, someone will say he or she has the right to come and dictate the way you are going to develop your resources for them to take them out and to keep you behind. Hey, that is exactly one of the biggest things we have to be fighting for as we stand. And I would doubt whether there's one single country which can say is economically free. And this is it. But those like you who have reached a certain level, keep it up, be innovative, do it. And in fact, I mean, Mia is already is already leading you in that direction. But do it because you are not only doing it for yourself. You are doing it for all the other countries. And here I'm not talking about the black people only. The rest of the developing world will learn from you, and all of us then will take a much bigger and have a step which will bring the humankind to a level of much closer to equality. So it is a responsibility. And I think you people, if I can now take this opportunity, you have that responsibility. Because, you know, as they say in my part of the world, they say, with success comes responsibility. It's much more responsibility. Yeah. So I don't know whether I answered what you were looking for, but you can ask it again, so that.
Well, what I will ask is whether, because we touched on the economic component, whether money is the only way of achieving this freedom.
No,
and therefore,
not
then
at all.
what
Not
are
at
the
all.
other aspects?
Money is important. Money is important, but be careful. Like other people in other parts of the world. Sorry. The civilization crisis they are still in, which has said we as black people we have to support and to offer, is because they became slaves of money and market. So they look at people and they say, oh, this country has 30 million people. Yeah, it's a small market. No, they are not markets, they are people. And when you say they have to come together, it's because they will work better if they work in a collective. But it's not because they are things. Money has introduced an element of dehumanizing people. And that is what we have to contribute to bring it back. Money is simply a tool. It is a tool, but money has to serve people and not the opposite, as it happens many times. Yeah.
We've talked about the world and we've talked about the struggle. And now, with your permission, I want to zero in and talk a bit more about you. Are you ready?
It depends on what you're going to ask.
Now, remember, in our preamble, I said,
Sorry.
I'm going to give you...
So sorry.
Do you want a moment to sip some
No,
more
I have
water?
water. I have water. I'm okay.
I'm going to go wherever you take me. So my first question is, what sustains you? What keeps you going? What fortifies you? What strengthens your spirit?
Well, I don't know, but I think first and foremost, I think I have been very privileged to be in loving families. My own family, where I was born, I was the youngest, and I was really, brought up in a space of lots of love. We were very poor in material terms, but my mother was really able to to embrace and to nurture us. And we became very, very close. We're 6 of us and around her. And that it fortifies you as a human being. But I also, in my adult life, wherever I'm working, I have been very, very lucky to be surrounded with people who we share a lot of the passion of the things we do. And in different stages of my life, I have left families. I moved from one work to the other, but in each place I have been, I have made of those colleagues of my family. And this is good. You just feel that you have where to lean on any time. But I think what comes out of here is that I have fire in my belly, which I just can't see. I can't watch and see a situation of injustice and sit back. I just can't. I'm intolerant to injustice. And because of this, I find always reasons to be doing things. And I'm always busy. My mind is always busy. And I don't have the luxury of saying, I'm tired, I'm old, because the issues I care for are still so glaring, and it's like I just cannot sit and sleep with my own conscience. What I can do is what I'm trying to do now, is really to transfer most of the things I care for to young generations so that they will continue. But nevertheless, I tell them that, perhaps you look for me and they say I am at the beach, but you are going to call and I will be able to give an opinion. I'll make a contribution from wherever I am. While we do have the levels of discrimination, violation of rights of women as we have, I can't stop. I just can't. When I look at my age, in rural areas in Africa, there are still girls who are going through the same kind of obstacles I confronted when I was 7. Except that fortunately, my family didn't sell me to anyone. But in terms of lack of conditions, dignified conditions of living, yes, it is still happening. And I see myself in every child and every girl, because it's me, except the fact that now I have this age, but that child is Graça some decades back. And this keeps me going, because this is how I am. But I have to say I'm not exceptional. I think many of us are like that. We all have just to feel it is our responsibility to contribute. You may not be able to solve, but you cannot sit back and watch. That's the difference.
And what grounds you spiritually?
I beg your pardon?
What grounds you spiritually?
What grounds me spiritually? Do I know? I think that's a little bit too personal. So let us leave it there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going to go with another one. It could have been easy as the First Lady, either of Mozambique or of South Africa, to take on a more ceremonial role and have things prescribed for you to do. You did not do that. It ties back into the answer to the previous question where you say you never stopped. So I want to talk about that. The fact that you just continued doing your work, fighting for your causes.
Yeah. You know, when I married for the first time, I was already Minister of Education. So my position in the country, it was really those days, as I mentioned, that we needed to design and to experiment what is the best way of running education for our children. So to be present in society and to do things of relevance to all of us in society, I didn't need the position of First Lady. I didn't need it. I was already there. And honestly, I have to tell you something else about this, is that I don't like the fact that those who have to be First Ladies, they are First Ladies because they married to somebody. And this somebody is the one who is doing the real job. And they are kind of in association, then they have to do something. Some of them, they had never been involved socially. But at the moment the husband becomes president, they give her an office and they tell her you have to do something. I don't think this is the best way of encouraging women to be involved socially. So and to be honest with you, I was also very lucky. When I married Madiba, I was already working with the United Nations in the so-called study on impact of armed conflict on children. And I was busy flying to different places in the world and working with the teams, etc., etc. I didn't need the position of a first lady to do this. So I have to say I was lucky. I was lucky, and I'm not saying that other people shouldn't be first ladies. I'm just saying, in my case, I was lucky that I had causes, I had issues I was caring about, I continue to be. But then, you know what? I thought of this, and I even told my children, when somebody was killed, because you know he was killed, I mean, from one day to the other, he was gone. Suppose I had been first lady. The following day, what would I do? You see what I mean? Because I wouldn't have my own cause, I wouldn't have my own things, and of course he died, and now I'm no longer first lady. What do I do with my life? I didn't have that situation. So I have to recognize that I was lucky. What I'm trying to say is, in both cases, we had a much higher connection as two people who were married. We shared at a higher level, issues which were important for our nations, and we kept our relationship at that level as well. So it was, perhaps I will say, it was an unusual case, but which served us, in both cases, very, very well. And I think also, perhaps I'm not being humble here, to say the fact that they were attracted to me, it is precisely because I was engaged in something. It was not only...
We are in full agreement. We are in full agreement, Dave Gracia.
No. It's because when you are in a position of leadership of that caliber, really, it is very important that you have as a partner somebody you share at that level in terms of, because you don't dissociate yourself, the person you are in the office and the person who is at home. Even at home, you continue to feel that the issues you care about, they are part of your family life. That's perhaps a better way of putting it, and I'm sorry.
Perfectly fine. When you're under such global public scrutiny, how do you retain that sense of self and authenticity and that private person? How did you do that?
It is not easy. I have to admit, it's not easy. Because, well, what we tried, and I'm not so sure whether we succeeded, but what we tried is to establish some boundaries on what we understood to be our family and what we many times will have to ask people, particularly the media, to respect. But the issue of authenticity and integrity, no, it doesn't have to do with the fact of being that family which is considered to be, I mean, at top and at the anyone can see. Integrity comes with your character, that you are the same person. I'm sorry.
We brought you some tea as well, if you look right there.
So,
Hot water. Just bear with us.
integrity has to do with your character. That whether you are in public space or you are in private space, you always behave according to certain principles and you don't change. So scrutiny comes because they will try to find out what are your weaknesses and to exploit your weaknesses. So you have to protect your family, that is true. But at the same time, you never pretend that you are perfect. You never pretend that you don't have weaknesses. And some of them, you better be the first to talk about it before they ask you. Because otherwise, when they ask you, then you are found in a weaker position. But if you take the initiative, you see, I'll tell you, it was mostly with Samora. It wasn't with me, but we had a boy, a child who was really very problematic. And he was the one to come up and say, you know, I'm a parent like any one of you, and I have the same challenges you have in your own homes. My child is this and that and that. So they didn't have to come and discover that we have a challenge as parents. They were told, and he was the first to say, I am a parent like any one of you. I face these kind of challenges. So it helps when you take the initiative of recognizing that yes, you are in a position of leadership, but you are a human being, you have challenges, you have weaknesses, and don't make it a secret. Because the moment it is a secret, then it becomes when they find out, then it will be very difficult for you yeah. Mm-hmm.
Coming down to my last few questions, what, in terms of your goals and achievements for a better world, for Africa, for girls, for women, what's left for you to do? What do you want to do?
I am aware that my life, going forward, it's much shorter than I have lived before, because I'm human. So what I'm trying to do is really what I establish some institutions In Mozambique, it's a foundation for community development. It deals with community building as such. I have the Graça Machel Trust, which is focusing on women and adolescents. And I established also another institution on early childhood because I felt that it is being extremely neglected in our systems, and many leaders don't recognize that you start with the primary school, but you lost the best of nurturing a child, from the time is really much young. Anyway, so building this, establishing these institutions, I work with different teams. It doesn't matter whether I'll be here or not, they will continue. If really, my hope is that the principles and the values we are trying to instill and the specific contribution we want to make, they will continue. So whether I'm here or not, that's not my issue. But what I have is a worry with Black people. And this is now with us all here. And we mentioned at the beginning this issue of self-awareness, of self-worth, and having to affirm ourselves, to assert ourselves, to define, to be asked to define who we are and how we want to be understood and how we want to be respected in our humanity. That is something now I want to share with all of us here. Think about 100 years from now. And you say, okay, in the past we have been victims of slavery, we have been victims of colonialism, and we had to fight as we had discussion here. Now, we have an opportunity to chart our own future. Because, colonialists are no longer here. And yes, we still have to struggle with the impact of it, but we have an opportunity to define our own future and to say where we want to be and how we want to be. How, in sense of what we want to become. It's not how, it's what we want to become. To become masters of ourselves. And to become people who can not allow anyone, anyone, to look down on us. But we still, allow people to look down on us. And it looks like we are accepting the abnormal. We normalize the abnormal. It's as if it's okay for people to treat us with disdain, to treat us with disrespect, to treat us as if we are not full human beings. Yes, but let's face it. Even in the so-called developed countries, Black people are not treated like that. No, they have citizenship. They are not treated like that. They're not treated like full citizens, okay? So you ask what I would like to ask all of us and whoever is listening to us. We were not born to be treated as small people who do not have brains, who do not have dignity. No. So we have to really have clarity on how we are going to affirm ourselves, how we are going to internalize that we are, and we are here. It's not by chance. We are here because we have to be. We are human. And we have all the rights which anyone else has. But it is now with us as Africans. And this, I think, really with the Africans and black people, because some are black and not African, but black people. And I'm not so sure how to, how then to leave this course in an institutionalized way with someone or some people who really are going to make this the biggest, cause of our liberation.
So this cause can be an overarching cause.
Yeah.
But shouldn't it also come down to the individual? So how do I, how do you, how do they assert and affirm, how do we assert and affirm ourselves as individuals? Will that help the cause?
Carol.
Dame.
You are, not Dame, Graça.
Gracia.
You are so intelligent and much more intelligent than I am. So you don't expect me to say, how do you do it? What I'm saying is that you and I and each one of us here have to do that in our own way.
Okay.
Because I can't dictate to each one of us, how do you do it? But that we have to do it. And ultimately, this is the biggest, for me, it's the biggest thing we owe to ourselves. Mm-hmm. And we even owe to those who died, in this case, in this country, as slaves. We owe it to them that after what they have gone through, we as their children, I don't know of which generation, we are not going to allow anyone to continue to to overlook on us, look down. It happened to them, right? And they rebelled. And that's why we are free here. And we have to be conscious of our responsibility, that this cannot continue forever. And it is our responsibility. It has to be passed to our children, to our grandchildren, etc., etc. But come 100 years from now, shame on us if we still continue in that position. Mm-hmm. Shame on us. We had 400 or 200 years back, but now, with the political freedom we have, with the intelligence which we have, and of course, education which, at least in this country, is given to everyone, why on earth we're going to continue to accept that people will look down on us? Why? So that's you say it's overarching. I don't think it's overarching, because I think it dictates the way you behave on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. On a daily basis. And of course, it's step by step, but it's fine. 1,000 steps starts always with one step. Yes. And that's why I'm saying we have to be aware that this is the biggest issue which black people have. And we say, oh, race. It's us who have to tell them that the fact that we have a black skin or dark skin, it doesn't define me how I think, how I act, and how I relate to other people. It doesn't. And that is the issue. So I think really we have to and again I come to Barbados because we are here and you have made so many progress in other aspects. Can I leave you with that to think about? Because we said reflections on the road to freedom. Okay? Yeah. that is the reflections which I will leave for from now on. When we come next year to the, not me, hey! No. Please don't underestimate me. I'm not, don't misinterpret me. I'm not saying I'm coming next year. I said.
You just did.
No, I didn't say so. And I said when we come. I'm saying when we come, because I know this country celebrates every year the season of emancipation, right?
Yes.
So you will meet again next year and the other year and the other year. And I think really I would leave it to you to think about this. And it will be one of the first examples of having in mind that it's not only about you as the millions or hundreds of thousands of Barbadians. It is about all of us as black people in the world. So how do we gain this conscience of we cannot continue to normalize the abnormal. This is not. It doesn't define us. So we needed to redefine ourselves. How is it going to be? You are in a very powerful position, huh? Because you lead and everyone in this country listens to you. And according to what I have understood, since I came, everyone, they, CEO. Sometimes they don't even mention your name. They just say, the CEO, the CEO. And I know, when they say the CEO, they mean Carol. So, everyone respects you here. So if you just begin with a small group of friends and whatever in your environment, say, what are we supposed to do? How are we going to do this thing? And of course, you know, me, I learned something, is that I can have huge challenges, and I did have them in life. I did have. But there's one thing which I keep telling myself, never bow. My head up. My head up. And when they say, oh, Graça, no, I'm not doing anything different from what other people do. But it is also true that it is, I know exactly where the boundaries of how someone has to treat me. I know. And this we can all do, and we can do it now as nations and all the nations. We can do it. It's not like it's very difficult. It's a question of attitude. It's a question of attitude. So I've been talking too much, darling, isn't it?
Absolutely not. I think we could stay here all night, but I do want to thank you so much. It's been such an honor
No.
to
But
welcome
before you
you.
go.
Yes, I'm actually going to give you, we're not finished, I'm actually going to give you the parting words before I invite the Honorable Prime Minister to give closing remarks.
I was told before coming here, I was told that there was a lot of expectation. As I said, oh, they are making a mistake. I knew they were making a mistake of having expectations. We just had a conversation, right?
Yes, we did, and a
And
beautiful
that's
and
it.
inspiring
It was
one.
just a conversation. So there was no need for expectations of any kind. I just want, before I leave really, thank you so much for the warmth and the love you have been receiving me, you have been treating me. I'm not shy to say, because that's how I am. I feel one of you. That's all.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dame Graça Machel. And now I will invite your daughter, the Honorable Prime Minister, Mia Amor Motley, to deliver the closing remarks. Prime Minister? Be careful to start this.
One day we'll come and steal this child of mine, huh? You know how I introduce things. I said, I'm one of you, okay? So when I come and we come with others and try to steal her, it is because we are one of you. And you will be and you will be the one to offer her. No? No? But well, we'll have another conversation. We'll have another conversation. You have to do things, you have to offer her beyond your yard. You see what I mean? And when she influences transformation in the world, that is going to be extremely good for you. It is not only, now you just feel that, well, we need to protect our space here. But if she transforms as she is transforming the world, this country will be even better off. Think of that. So, can I go? Yes,
No,
I have to go.
For you, so we have something for you. So I'll be.
The PM will deliver the closing remarks. You want to sit again?
Thank you very much.
Sit again?
Please.
We could stand.
Oh, okay. Oh, she's going to speak, so we sit, okay. I thought I was going back to my seat.
My role is very simple this evening. Concluding remarks is just that, concluding. And I want to thank you and to say that I am blessed because I have two mothers here, my mother and my mother. It's two sisters. I want us just to consider how blessed we have been to have been witnesses to this conversation. And I think you better understand why we felt that Dame Gracia was the perfect person to come and share with us as we close off our season of emancipation. I had the privilege of being able to deliver the 20th anniversary Nelson Mandela lecture. And at that time, I indicated to her that I thought it was important that she come and speak. Because even before that, there was a statement at the beginning of COVID when we participated together in a United Nations forum that has stuck with me ever since. And I quote it because you repeated it in part tonight. Again, when you focused on transformation and not change. But perhaps the most powerful statement for me was that inequalities are man-made. And if they are man-made, they can be man-reversed. The fact that we continue now to have to assert ourselves, to have others recognize our freedoms, and for us to also fight for additional freedoms is something that should not escape us. Our recognition of the commemoration of this day, remembrance of the slave trade and its abolition, just reinforces what it took for us through centuries to get there. It was the building of resilience. Regrettably, for the other freedoms that we have to still fight for, and for the crises that we face today, it is going to be resilience that is needed. But we live in a world where we have been reduced to individualism, and it is the concept of Ubuntu, called by those in Africa, Ubuntu. I am because we are. But in our own little way, we have it because I keep making the point that the most powerful statement in this country is 3 words. We is we. We is we. Because it sets out the principle of solidarity. And when we set out to draft the Bridgetown initiative a few years ago, there were people in the room who wanted to tell us that solidarity and justice were passé. And I said simply to them, it can never be passé to work for fairness, because that is what we teach our children. And it can never be passé for us to work together, because individually we cannot achieve that which we can achieve working together. We face some daunting challenges, but I have hope, because across the world there are people like Dame Gracia and others who have been inspired by the battles that we have had to fight, who recognize that the destination is not individual freedom. The destination is when we can carry all of us to the point of being able to change and transform the world in which we live, and to share the things that will make us better individuals, better families, and better communities, better countries. That is what we are trying to do in this country. But as I say up to today, in another statement that I made, it cannot be done by any one group or government or individuals or one sector. It has to be done by us identifying the common purpose and working together to that common purpose. So I want to thank you. Sometimes we need to have people from outside come and tell us things, just to remind us of what is in us. And the concept of the fire in the belly and we as we are all things that are very much have been instilled in us as African people. And I want to also remember in his honor, as you spoke about the importance of the circle, our great poet, Kamau Brathwaite, who reinforced in us the importance of 2 things, the circle and the name. The name, I've come to learn, has been a tool of oppression. Not only were our names taken from us then, but even as recently in the climate crisis, natural disaster clauses are now called climate resilience debt clauses, because it's not acceptable for us to name anything that is acceptable globally. And the circle, because in the circle, the energy of which Mama Gracia spoke is preserved, and it allows us to carry the strength of each other without necessarily having to have everyone moving at the same pace and at the same time. So thank you. God bless you. And I want to say to those of you who turned out, I told her she was a very special person to have this hall packed on a Friday evening. The hardest thing is to know. But I'm sure you will agree with me that even though she says she may not be here next year, if she is one of us, then she has to be back more regularly. Thank you, and God bless you. One interesting quirk. Dame Gracia became Minister of Education at 29. I became Minister of Education 3 weeks short of 29. We both started in the thing that we want to end with. When all is said and done, the task of education cannot be simply an inherited system that reinforces values that are not our own, but we have to transform our educational system to be able to transform our future and to be able to increase our sense of value as to who we are as people. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister, for the concluding remarks. And if you just indulge us for a few more minutes, I invite you to present the gift at this time. The Honorable Prime Minister is presenting to our distinguished guests artwork from one of Barbados' notable visual artists, Mr. Neville Legal. Some of his work also forms part of the national collection of the Barbados Art Gallery. Mr. Legal portraits depicts ingenuity of the emancipated African enslaved persons in Barbados.
So very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we have been inspired and encouraged to regird our loins for the battle ahead and to complete the mission that is set before us. One person who truly understands this is Ms. Sharita Granham, manager of the Road Program. I therefore invite Mrs. Granham to the podium to deliver this evening's vote of thanks.
I think this is the lowest this microphone has been for the evening. Good evening, everyone. The Honorable Prime Minister Mia Amor Motley, members of Cabinet, His Excellency David Comishong, Ambassador to CARICOM, Dr. the Most Honorable Anthony Gabby Carter, Cultural Ambassador, Her Excellency Dame Graça Machel, members of the Diplomatic Corps, members of the Senate, members of the House of Assembly, Dr. Kevin Greenidge, Governor of the Central Bank of Barbados, Professor Clive Landis, Pro-Vice Chancellor and Principal of the University of the West Indies, Cave Hill Campus, staff of the Prime Minister's Office and National Cultural Foundation, representatives of the UWI, representatives of the United Nations, staff of the Caribbean community, and its agencies, representatives from the Pan-African community, labor movement, and youth organizations, distinguished colleagues, specially invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight was something special, and it is my profound honor to extend this evening's vote of thanks. Prime Minister Motley, your commitment to ensuring that we as Barbadians explore and embrace the complexity of our national identity, understanding who we are and what we are capable of achieving together as a nation of active, socially conscious people, it continues to inspire us to larger and greater ambitions. Thank you so much for providing opportunities like tonight's forum for us to distill and dissect and to reconstruct our consciousness as a people. We thank you. Our honored guest, Dame Graça Machel, Your Excellency. On behalf of everyone here, including the ancestors on both sides of the Atlantic that you've introduced, I want to express our heartfelt thanks for sharing your words of wisdom, words that have not only enlightened us, but have left us feeling so energized and hopeful. I think your analysis of freedom and what it means for you, and also through the lens of others, was profound. And it was delivered with such a blend of insight and humor and grace in your very unique style. We appreciate that very much. And it isn't easy to make very complex topics like freedom feel approachable, but you've done so with such an ease, and you've reminded us that the fight isn't really necessarily for our freedom. We're born free. The real fight is for the recognition of that freedom and to break the systems and the structures that blind the oppressive forces to that freedom. So I'm confident that those here will continue the conversations in our homes, in our schools, in our churches, in our communities, because these are the types of conversations that shape lives. You've left a very lasting impression, and we thank you very much. CEO Carol Roberts, the CEO. You took us on a journey, and I think everyone here will agree that there are very few in the world who can rival the skill that was on display tonight. It was a wonderful conversation that you shaped, and thank you so ably facilitating this evening's proceedings and always being very supportive of the Division of Culture's activities. Tony Broder, representative of the United Nations and head of UN Women, for your moving remarks, reminding us that while we reflect and reconcile with the trauma that we seek to leave behind, we always have to be mindful that the road to freedom continues to lead us to better, fairer, and just worlds for everyone. So in your words, we have to be willing to risk everything for equality. We wish to express our sincere thanks and gratitude to the Governor and staff of the Central Bank of Barbados for the use of Frank Collymore Hall this evening, to the staff of the Division of Culture, its various agencies and departments, and the Prime Minister's office. Thank you so much for the endless hours of work that you've put into making this evening's event the success that it was. To the staff of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, thank you very much for your usual kind collaboration and your lead on all matters of protocol and diplomacy. To our cultural ambassador, Dr. Anthony Gabby Carter, for his very moving renditions. Thank you very much. I think we could do with another one, and the night is still young. Mr. Alfred Richards and his team for the stellar technical support this evening. The ever-talented Mr. Neville Legal, whose painting was presented this evening. To Renaissance Designs and Expressionism Inc. for the beautiful decor and enhancements. To the property managers at the parking sites of the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, at Parliament, at the Ministry of Education, Queen's Park, and the caretakers of the National Conservation Commission, thank you so much. The ushers, parking marshals, the Barbados Police Service, the Barbados Defense Force, G4S Security, thank you. To our caterers and our upcoming entertainment that I hear is coming during the cocktail reception, and all the other service providers who made this evening's proceedings possible. To the members of the media, I have a very special message for you. Your presence here is crucial, and it is going to be integral in ensuring that the insights and the ideas shared today don't just stay within these walls. We need it to reach much broader audiences, and your role as the bridge between the public, credible information, and these messages is more important now than ever. You have the responsibility of translating these very complex messages into stories that inform, that inspire, and engage the masses. And the coverage that you provide not only amplifies the impact of this evening's discussions, but it also helps to shape the public's understanding and dialogue around these topics. To Mr. Crispin Hackett, our wonderful MC, who kept the proceedings flowing seamlessly and with the flair that he is known for. Thank you so much. A very special mention to Minister Dr. the Honorable Chantal Monroe-Knight, whose unwavering support and steer to the team at the Division of Culture must be highlighted. The hard work, it shows. To you, our brothers, our sisters, both present and joining us virtually, we thank you for taking the time to come out on this Friday evening and to engage in this really important conversation and what it means for us to be free, particularly people of African descent, in a world that continues to confront the challenges of systemic racial injustice. We thank you. Master of Ceremonies, back to you.
Thank you, Mrs. Granham. Ladies and gentlemen, comrades, thank you for your attention and participation at this evening's commemorative discussion. I ask that you remain seated while I invite our distinguished guests to stand and follow the direction of the ushers. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience, and thank you for coming out tonight and sharing your time with us. Please be under the guidance of the ushers. And for those of you who wish not to stay for the reception, please note the shuttles are available now to return to the parking points. Ministry of Education, Queen's Park, and the Queen Elizabeth Hospital playing field.